Okay.
what will we do about that?
Absolutely. Hi everybody, welcome to the House of Wellness. Zoe, quick question for you. Have you ever heard of the blue zones?
No. Is that an area where you go if you're feeling sad?
Like you're thinking, it's better than that. Blue zones are 5 places in the world where people live the longest and healthiest lives.
Should it be like rainbow zone then? So it's, you know, a fun place to go. Is there one in Australia?
I can't tell you that just yet, but we will reveal all later in the show.
Let's get the show rolling.
Come on then. Rainbows. Coming up, we're uncovering the secret to winning people over.
No protection means no fun in the sun. Today we learn about summer sun safety.
What people don't realise is that you can actually get sunburn in as little as 10 minutes.
And we uncover the truth about living a long and healthy life. And it's not what you thought.
So join us on the show for everyone who wants to live life to the full.
An exciting time of new beginnings.
Let's all get well, stay well, live well and look fabulous. Right here in the House of Wellness. What a jam-packed show we've got today. All the gang is here. Let's just kick things off, so.
Well, you know what, Ed? You wouldn't know, but preparing for breastfeeding can be very daunting. We have a fascinating story coming up. You know, I'm still feeding Fox, and now I'm so confident. I reckon I could run a marathon or do some IKEA bookshelves while I breastfeed.
That's that. Well, we'll have more on that a little bit later.
What an image!
Bianca.
I can do anything, you know that.
Our summer days are finally here too, Bianca, so we're bracing ourselves for the warmer weather.
There is so much more we can do with sun protection. We can save our own lives by actually putting some time and effort into looking after ourselves. Do you know it was 37 years ago that the old slip, slop, slap campaign came out?
Really?
Sid the seagull.
Yes. And then they added slide on those sunglasses.
They did. Okay, and GQ back in the hot seat this week. What is happening?
Sugar, Zoe. We
Yummy.
all tend to gravitate towards it. We're going to have a chat about sugar today.
You're going to bring someone?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is it no good?
Maybe.
And Joe, looking bright and delightful. What's on your agenda today?
Bring the sunglasses. Well, we are starting with a story that is for all women watching the show today. Zoe Bingley-Pullin takes a look at menopause, a moment in a woman's cycle of life that can't be avoided. And for the men watching, you should know this stuff too.
Hot flushes, night sweats, mood swings, aches and pains. These are all signs that the change is coming, or menopause. Now, I've just turned 40 and already I'm experiencing some of these symptoms. Now, for women, menopause is unavoidable. So how do we manage it? And isn't it something that we should be celebrating, not commiserating? Menopause is hormonal hell. Science explains menopause as the end of a woman's reproductive years, as her ovaries wind back the production of the hormones estrogen, testosterone and progesterone. But for 80% of women around the world, the change of life typically marks the beginning of 4 to 8 years of hormonal hell, meaning that healthy sleep, depression, unwanted hair growth and urinary frequency can all become an issue for women, and often simultaneously. According to Professor Rodney Baber, the change in a woman's brain chemistry can be very hard on her body.
Hot flushes and night sweats and poor sleep are all because the temperature control mechanism in our brain needs estrogen to be controlled accurately. And once the estrogen declines, then our sense of hot or cold becomes more acute. But the changes you see after the menopause are changes in cholesterol levels, changes in blood pressure, changes in insulin resistance, so an increased risk of metabolic disease. And unfortunately, after the menopause, you put weight on around the middle, which is not the best place to have fat.
No woman wants to have fat there.
No woman wants it there.
Aesthetically
And no
health-wise.
no cardiologist wants you to have it there either. That's the trouble.
Menopause is funny. So what can menopausal women do about this perfect storm of hormones and brain chemistry? Well, according to Ali Pope-Bailey and Meg Kittle, stars of Menopause the Musical, laughter is a vital medicine.
Well, I know I've changed a lot with this whole changing process. Seems like only yesterday that I was captain of the netball team at Dubbo High. Now I'm like the captain of the Titanic. It's something that's coming. The way we look at it is it's something to celebrate. Don't sweep it under the mat because, you know, you've got to deal with it some way. Come along and have a laugh, because if you're not having a laugh about the condition, you might be having a cry. So let's all have a laugh and do it together in a big group, because it's much more fun.
First staged in 2001, this show has been seen by more than 11 million men and women around the world and provides a wonderful form of group therapy and a way to talk openly about menopause. Menopause is no longer secret women's business.
Remembering back when we first started, when you turned about 12 and you started everything, and you never talked about it. Nowadays, all the young kids talk about the start of it, and we're all at the stage where we can talk about the end of it all.
My grandmother would say, oh, you know, the change.
My grandma and mother said the same thing.
Let's not talk about that, women's business. But now it's like it is. It is a celebration.
Absolutely. Well, I'm taking home good endorphins, fantastic endorphins.
Good for everybody to learn what goes on with women.
Men should come, definitely men. Oh, my goodness, yes. Don't they go through menopause too?
They know exactly what's going on and how to cope with it in their own way. Just get out the door as fast as you can.
Menopause is different for every woman. Nights out like this are a great example of how lowering your stress levels can contribute to feeling better about menopause. But Professor Baber believes that reassessing your lifestyle will also make a huge difference to your ability to cope.
Are you smoking? Try and give up. Are you drinking? Try and cut down. Are you overweight? Try and get it down. Are you exercising? If not, why not? All of that sort of stuff. Try and improve the quality of your life. If your symptoms persist and they are bothersome, then it's worthwhile talking to your family doctor about what can be done. And I suppose my most important message would be, if you need hormones, they are a very safe intervention and they can improve your quality of life.
Hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, is medication containing the hormones that a woman's body stops producing after menopause. It is strongly recommended until around the age of 51. However, there may be risks involved for women who are older. But alternative therapies like acupuncture and herbal medicines are becoming increasingly popular when it comes to treating those hot flushes and calming the mind. So the take-home message is to talk to your GP, tell them about your symptoms and find a plan that works for you. But overall, it's letting women know that there is a solution and it's reducing the stigma related to menopause.
Absolutely, Jo. Stigmas, it can be so cruel for women.
Boo to stigmas.
So joining us today to talk about the effect menopause has on our health and our mental health is psychologist Dr. Fiona Martin and our resident pharmacist GQ. Thank you both. I have to say, I know there are stigmas attached with it, but I think there'd be some relief about not ever having a period again.
Yeah, I think so too.
Nice.
Where do the stigmas come from, though?
Well, I think, you know, we just think it's a hush-hush conversation, not, you know, we shouldn't be talking about it, but in fact we should be talking about it because it's a natural transition for women to go through.
And they have to understand, surely, what is it a lack of understanding of the process that maybe causes concerns? Why is it?
Well, I think, though, that it comes about when a woman understands that she's losing her fertility, and therefore does that change who I am as a sexual being? How do I have sexual currency anymore? Am I still attractive? I'm getting older. I've got whiskers. What's going on? You know, it comes with all of that.
Whiskers don't help.
No, it's no fun. No. So how do we cope with that, Fiona?
Yeah, well, I mean, the psychological symptoms that women, and of course women experience some of these symptoms differently. Not every woman is exactly the same. But the psychological symptoms like mood changes, for example, and brain fog, which is experienced quite a bit, are real, and certainly insomnia or sleep disturbance is another common symptom. And all these things are important to be aware of. We need to be talking about this, but we can do a lot. You can, lifestyle changes.
Exactly.
Lifestyle, you know, making sure you do all that you can, you know, that's in your control. So exercise, relaxation.
Eating well.
Going for a massage.
Yes, but I think if you are sleep deprived night after night after night,
it can destabilise.
So we
Absolutely.
could use some natural remedies like we saw the acupuncture in there.
We can. There's lots, Zoe, and everyone's different, as Fiona has said, but there are gentle herbs that just balance those highs and lows. And because everybody's so different, And sleep is probably the main
Look,
cause.
sleep
Just
can
interrupted
destabilise the most competent, functioning person.
Yes.
Sleep deprivation.
It's torture.
Yeah.
But I think also speaking about it openly and with the men in your life as well, fully understanding.
Very important for the men to
That's why I'm on the couch.
Women are going through.
Thank you both so much. We have to keep this conversation going, and everyone out there, please stick with us. There is so much more to come here on the House of Wellness. Later, we learn why certain lifestyle choices can help you live a long and happy life.
But next, it's all about the art of winning people over, and it's easier than you think. Loads more to come right after the break here on the House of Wellness. Welcome back. Well, we're into the festive season now, aren't we? And we're heading into what is a pretty busy social time. And for some, of course, this means it's time to brush up on our conversation skills.
Oh, yes, it is. We've all heard the saying, the gift of the gab. It's the ability to speak easily and confidently that makes people want to listen to you. But for some, like Ed, it's not so easy.
It's true. So joining us today to unveil the secrets to winning people over with words is behaviour expert Anthony Laye.
Gonna need your help.
Anthony. Now, everybody wants to be liked, but it's not that easy for some people. If we feel like we're not connecting with someone, what can we do? What are we doing wrong?
What we're doing wrong, I think the problem is we normally enter into an interaction, those general chit-chats, so whether it's picking the kids up from school, whether it's meeting your mates at the barbecue, whether it's at work, we default to the negative. We talk about the bad news that we see, and we naturally instantly start most of our conversations in that negative way. So we need to switch that round completely.
So no whinging. That's the
We're
problem.
so good at that, though.
Coming from a pom as well.
I know.
No whinging.
It's rich coming from you. OK, so how do we stay positive? How can we change the chat to be positive rather than negative?
So be positive rather than negative. I think that the first thing that we need to do is to become really good listeners. That is probably the first, like the golden rule, so to speak. A lot of us, we will listen, and as we're listening, and I'm sure that you found this before, is as you're listening, you'll start to think about what you actually want to say next and how you're going to respond, rather than listening to the words that the person's actually saying. So it's about becoming conscious of that. And when you notice that inner dialogue starting to go, oh, what question am I going to ask? Is to just pause and just go, what are they actually saying, and focus back on the words. And also, when somebody finishes talking at the end of their sentence, is just pause a second before you decide to interrupt, because they might give you more.
I've literally never done that. So that is a really great point.
So a really good tool that we can use to look like we're really good listeners is to just tilt our head slightly to one side.
Oh, tilt.
Obviously not right the way over. That
Like
would
a
just,
Labrador.
Just a slight tilt to one side. It actually makes you look like you are listening more, and so people will be encouraged to talk more.
OK, so we're good listeners and we're positive, OK?
tilting.
But in a social setting, say we're at a dinner party, which is going to be happening a lot at the moment, and suddenly the ball's in our court and we might be a little bit introverted. How do we tell stories that are engaging? How do we keep people interested in us?
So I think one of the key things is to add dopamine into any interaction.
Where do we get it?
Okay, I'll give you. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll try a quick experiment. Can I try it on you, Ed?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, if I was to ask you to think of a number between 1 and 10 now.
Yep.
Okay, chances are you and probably about 80% of the people watching will probably go for the number 7. Okay, psychologically that's...
Curses.
Okay, so we're going to take this a stage further.
Okay.
Think of a 2-digit number for me. But don't say it, but think of a 2-digit number for me.
Yep.
You haven't gone for 23, have you?
No.
No. Okay, good. What I'm going to do... You went for 23.
How did you know that?
Okay.
What is happening?
I don't know. I'm very confused right now.
Just tilt your head. That's all you're going to do. Tilt your head.
So that 2-digit number that you have in your head, obviously totally random.
Yes.
Write it down there for me. Once you're done, close the pad up and then put the lid back on the pen for me. Make sure that I don't see it. And if any of you see it as well, then don't
Tell
say
you.
anything.
Okay.
Okay. Now, hold that in your hands.
All right.
Now, it's very important that we haven't set anything up beforehand.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to say a number, but not the number that you've written down in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Now?
The number that you say will give me the information that I need to know in order to work out that number.
Is that right?
Okay.
Okay. You ready for it?
You look sceptical already.
Yeah.
So not the number that you've written down there, but a completely different one.
Okay.
Say it for me now.
45.
45. Okay, so you've given me an even and an odd. You've also gone sort of about middle of the road there, 45 around at the sort of 50 mark. I think that you, because you're slightly sceptical, you would stick on the same sort of side. So don't give me, you're smiling a lot now, you're giving quite a lot away. The number that you would have written down is
Tilt my head.
45. So you got an even and an odd. I think that you would have kept a pattern, but you would have flipped it around the other way. The number that I think you were thinking of was 12.
No way! What is happening? Is this
Okay. No. So anyway, but what you've just experienced is a hit of dopamine, okay?
Okay, so what you want is something surprising in a conversation that is going to really make people go, wow!
Yeah, and without going out and learning some sort of weird mind trick that I just did, what you can do for this is to ask interesting questions. This is my go-to question that I will use at any event that I'm at.
Yeah, give it to us.
So you want to build up don't start out with this question, otherwise you'll be a bit of a weirdo. Once you've sort of built a bit of rapport, is to ask the question, if you could shrink any animal down to the size of a mouse and keep it in your pocket, which animal would you choose?
Wow.
Well, that's a very odd question.
It is a very odd question, but it's very interesting. And I've had conversations for like 30 minutes around the table just purely based on that.
I mean, it's like the superpower question.
Yeah, but this one, I don't know, because it's adorable too, because imagine a teeny tiny elephant in your pocket. Oh my God!
Yes.
We all want a
The
teeny
trunk would
tiny
be hanging out
elephant.
the side though.
I would so do a giraffe with his little head.
Can we go to what happened just before you came on, which is to ask Jo to draw a drawing?
Oh, yeah, this is
Can
a
we
mystery.
see what this is interesting.
Okay, so...
It's going to say something about Jo, right?
I feel like I've been set up.
You haven't been set up in any way, shape or form, but I told you ahead of time that I was going to analyse your personality based on a drawing that you would do, and I was going to do it here on the camera. So I haven't seen the drawing that you've done, have I?
No.
There is no way that I could know what you would have drawn.
In fact, it's so bad, I'm not sure I want anyone to see it.
Okay. So I lied to you a little bit because I'm not going to look at your drawing and try to work out your personality. I'm going to let your personality tell me what you have drawn instead.
Oh,
okay, so we're now flipping this. Right. Another dopamine hit. Don't open that up for a second.
My number 12 doesn't seem so bad now.
I'm still confused how he knew 23. This is a big thing we've got to digest.
Now, one other tip that I want to give you with conversations, okay, is to use gestures. Okay?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when they get nervous and they're in a conversation, they'll stand with their hands down. What we want to start doing is using gestures to bring our words to life.
Okay.
Bring the Italian out in all of us.
Yeah, don't go crazy with this.
Okay.
So not all jazz hands and all over the place. We want to keep it to within a box that is sort of probably about 6 inches past the shoulders, and to a section that's sort of that size there. But use your gestures as you're talking. It brings the words to life. So what we're going to do is we're going to use gestures now. Don't say a word.
Okay.
But I want you to imagine that you are explaining what you've drawn without actually drawing it, but using gestures. So imagine just talking about it, but using... It's going to be weird and it's going to look really funny, but...
So I'm not using words?
Not using words, and you're not allowed to draw it.
No.
But just imagine that you're explaining that drawing to somebody using gestures.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, got it.
Okay, you can stop now.
I can't.
This is just weird. Okay.
It's so weird.
But it has given me a bit of information.
Yeah.
Out of interest, have you seen what's drawn down
No.
there? Okay. I'm not going to let you see what I've drawn for a second.
All right, then. I mean, it's going to make the Christmas party fun, isn't it?
I know.
What animal are you going to shrink?
Well, also, everybody be happy if I'm not talking, so it's a good...
Yeah.
It's a good...
And we just got your pin number too. So we're
23.
Yeah. All right, Anthony, let's see what we got here.
Okay, so I've drawn something down. I'm going to place it down there for a moment.
Yes.
Now, can I just get you to just open up the pad so that we can actually see what it is?
Go on.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh, okay.
Pretty little flower. Okay.
That's actually, you said it was a bad drawing. That's actually a good drawing.
This is all I can draw.
Great.
In the whole wide world.
Or you could draw, but it looks...
Hey!
No. Wow.
I mean, I really feel like you need to come back another day so we can talk about you being a mentalist.
Important tips, everybody. Takeaways. And Anthony, thank you so much. First
no
was
problem.
listening.
Yeah, listening.
A little tilt.
Ask questions of people.
Gestures. Be in the box. Think bigger than the box,
And
but
get
stay
the
in the box.
dopamine going.
Absolutely. Add a bit of mayo to your stories too. Thanks so much, mate. That was fascinating.
Thank you.
stuff. Stay with us, everyone. We'll see you all after the break here on the House of Wellness. Coming up on the A to Z of vitamins, we may have the secret to stopping those sugar cravings in their tracks.
But next, we're making avocado bruschetta with a touch of green goodness. Stay with us, we're getting a little tasty back here on the House of Wellness.
This week, a bruschetta that won't end up in your lap. And it's jam-packed with green goodness. Begin by oiling and slowly baking your bread. Next, combine cooked peas with spirulina powder, mint, extra virgin olive oil, lemon, and season to taste. Blend to a thick paste and spread into your crunchy bread. Now, you simply combine tiny cubes of avocado and tomato with a squeeze of lemon, a crumble of goat's cheese, cracked pepper, and you're ready to win friends.
Oh gosh, that bruschetta
Yes, please.
looks delicious. We've gone on international with that recipe, haven't we?
Ciao, baby, I love a bruschetta.
Swedish?
And that one is loaded with goodness. There's avocado and good fats and a sprinkle of spirulina. That is not very Italian, though.
Sweet.
But good for you.
Very good. Look, gram for gram, Zoe, spirulina is probably the most nutritious food in the world.
There
Gram
you go.
for gram.
Would you say we should all be taking that every day?
It's an option.
Let's get to your calls and questions right now, our favourite part of the show. And our team hit the streets again to see if we could help out with some of your health concerns. We've got Melissa first up. She is standing by in Lumia, New South Wales, with this query.
What would you recommend be the best diet or nutrition for somebody with bowel issues?
Oh, she's actually in a good area in that fruit and veg
Yes,
section, wasn't
and
she?
that's fundamental, Ed. So that's fibre. It's all about fibre and making sure that you drink enough water with your fibre, and it just keeps the system moving, so to speak. So
Gotcha.
it's
Pardon the
pun. So that's a good way of just breaking it up and just being regular, as we
Psyllium
say.
husk is a good fibre supplement.
Yes, it is, but naturally fruit and vegetables
has enough.
particularly is if you can eat enough and you know when things float.
Ooh, okay. On the phone now is Paige from Berwick in Victoria. We would love to hear from you.
My family are travelling to Bali. We just want to know what vaccinations we need to take as a precaution.
It's holiday time. Yes, we did a session on vaccinations a few weeks ago, and very important to get the most up-to-date information from your GP. But, Paige, take Saccharomyces probiotic. Reduces the risk of travellers' diarrhea, which sometimes is a bit of an accompanying thing.
Especially in Bali, the barley belly.
Well, you can be unlucky, but why not take a precaution? Saccharomyces.
All right, good luck with that. Next, we met Samantha from Kingsley, New South Wales. She had this to ask us.
Sometimes I find I'm waking up really tired. So as a young woman, what's the optimum amount of sleep I should be getting each night?
Oh, gosh, give us a big number.
Everybody's different.
Is it?
Well, how much sleep do you get?
I had actually 9 hours last night. It was the first time in, I think, a year.
Well done, Benji. The important thing in all of this is probably iron. So you take, and she's a lovely young thing, so iron is very important, and a multivitamin. That's classic multivitamin.
All righty, great tips. More questions coming up, of course, too. Loads more after the break here on the House of Wellness. Still to come, the secret of living to 100 may come down to where you live.
But next we learn about sun safety and the importance of wearing sunblock.
The face is actually the most exposed part of the body to UV rays.
It's all happening here on the House of Wellness.
Welcome back. Well, summer's nearly here, and one thing's for sure, we're all looking forward to spending more time outside, soaking up those nice warm summer rays.
Yes, but as Australians, we know that spending time in the sun means we need to think about sun protection. It is so important, Bianca.
It is so important. And you know, on those beach days when we lather up our bodies with sunscreen, but quite often we forget about our face.
Don't forget the face.
Don't forget your face.
Most important part.
That's right. So I set out to go and find the ultimate sun protection. Even on a day like this, you wouldn't know it. He's feeling it, she's feeling it, they're all feeling it, I'm feeling it as well. We all are every time we step outside. I'm talking about harmful UVA and UVB rays found in sunlight. Summer's fast approaching, and as it warms up, we'll all start spending more time outside, and that means more UV on our skin. Unfortunately, UV levels in Australia are among the highest in the world, and as a result, we also have one of the highest incidences of skin cancer, especially the most dangerous kind, melanoma. Leading Melbourne dermatologist Dr. Alan Siegel knows only too well how quickly melanomas can be triggered and how dangerous they are. It's not just sunny days that we need to be worried about, is it?
No. Well, on days like today where there are clouds, still 50% of the ultraviolet gets through. So you can get burnt even when there's cloud cover. And so it doesn't take that long for DNA changes in your skin to occur, which can, in some instances, eventually turn into skin cancers. So the take-home message, I think, is if you think something is abnormal or become abnormal, don't ignore it and get a doctor to have a look.
Ironically, although skin cancer is Australia's most common form of cancer, it's also one of the most preventable forms. And with 2 in 3 Australians being diagnosed with skin cancer by the age of 70, it's time to get serious about skin protection, not to mention the ageing effects the sun has on our skin. We've become pretty good at remembering to slip, slop and slap when we're going to the beach or to the pool. But it's that incidental exposure when we're walking the kids to school, meeting a friend for a coffee, or even in the park playing with the dog. To protect yourself and your family, the daily UV index needs to be your best friend. The index measures UV exposure, with 0 being minimal risk and 10 plus indicating a very high risk. The Cancer Council recommends that we should all wear sunscreen and other sun protection whenever the UV index is 3 or above. Juliet Jenkinson from UVIQ Australia is passionate about protecting our skin, especially when it comes to incidental exposure to the sun.
I think what people don't realise is that you can actually get sunburnt in as little as 10 minutes when you're exposed to UV rays. The face is actually the most exposed part of the body to UV rays, so it's important to be wearing facial sunscreen every day, incorporating it into your daily routine and then reapplying it through the day as well. Sunscreens protect against UVB rays, which cause sunburn, but they also protect against UVA rays, which are the rays that cause premature skin ageing. So in using a sunscreen every day, you're actually getting those age prevention benefits at the same time.
And if you find traditional sunscreens feel too heavy and greasy on your skin, a new range of formulations endorsed by the Cancer Council for UV protection have been developed by UVIQ Australia. Designed for everyday use, they don't leave a shiny residue on your skin, and they're not just sunscreens.
Everyone's so busy and they're after multifunctional products. So at UVIQ Australia, we've got 2 different collections. We've got a hydrating collection and an anti-pollution collection. Both come in nourishing lotions, which are more suited to drier skin types. And we've also got some ultralight milks that are better suited to oilier skin types. So you can replace your daily moisturiser with a sunscreen that has those additional skincare benefits as well.
So really, it's a no-brainer. We have to protect our skin every single day, no matter what we're doing, no matter what the weather is. It's the choices we make today, like putting on sunscreen, that could potentially save your life.
Sorry about that. Great story, Bianca.
Thank you.
It's so important. After 37 years of this slip, slop, slap campaign, we've still got to get the message through.
We do.
And we should point out, I don't know if you noticed, but we're wearing
beautiful hats.
Silly hats.
And I think it's important.
I brought your hat in from home.
Thank you.
That's your normal one the boys gave to me. So take that one off and put this one on.
You got your rainbow though, Zoe.
I did get my rainbow.
It's more you with the... That's
the fishing you do.
Yes.
And it's important to remember the glasses.
Yes.
Lots of SPF, long sleeves, and your hat. If we can do it, you can do it, OK?
Importantly, I mean, melanomas cost lives, don't they? So you've got to protect your face. And it's the one thing we forget about probably the most. No hat, no play. That's for everybody, not just our kids.
It is. And we've got a responsibility to ourselves and to our families to just be sensible about sunscreen.
Yeah, and the one thing I learnt during this story was that this is the one cancer we can prevent the most, because if we cover up, if we put sunscreen on every day, we are actually giving ourselves every opportunity to not get it.
Do you know what I found really interesting? The UV index. I didn't know that that was a thing. How can we find out what the UV index is for the day and how much we need to protect ourselves?
Well, as most things these days, you can actually just download an app on your phone and it will tell you what the UV index is in your area. And so, you know, but otherwise I'd always put sunscreen on no matter what.
Every day.
And importantly, it'll come through the clouds too. So even on a cloudy day, you often get your worst sunburns too,
That's
don't you?
exactly right.
That's terrific. That's sensational, that hat, Ed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I might land a nice little brown trout with this a little bit later on.
You never know.
No hat, no play. All righty. By the way, if you want to watch us again and find out any of these other segments, you can find us on our website via houseofwellness.com.au. Make sure you check it out. We've got a recipe tab there. You can ask Gerald any questions you like. You can listen to the radio version of the show as well and reach us 24/7 online.
Okay, so it's time to take your hat off now.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's not just looking after our skin that will keep us living a long and healthy life. Earlier on, we mentioned the blue zones, right? 5 regions of the world that experts have identified as having the healthiest population.
Yeah, now according to research, people who live in these specific 5 regions live longer, they suffer less disease, and they enjoy good health.
Interesting. Now, here to explain the blue zones and what we can learn from them is social scientist, we love her, Ali Walker. Welcome.
Dr. Ali.
You are from a blue zone for sure.
Oh, I wish. I wish. The blue zones are amazing. I'll tell you more about them in a second.
Okay.
But it all came from 2004 research by demographers. And they isolated a province of Sardinia in Italy, hence I wish.
I would be so happy if I was there.
Well, it turns out we all would, because they worked out that within this zone that they identified as a blue zone, there were more centenarians or males over 100.
Wow.
So this guy from National Geographic magazine, Dan Buettner, looked at that research and said, well, surely there are other places around the world where you have a high number of centenarians and people in their 80s and 90s. So let's find out where they are. And so we have 5 blue zones.
Have a look.
So we have Ikaria in Greece, Okinawa in Japan, Loma Linda, a Seventh-day Adventist community in California, Nicoya in Costa Rica, and as I said, Sardinia in Italy.
And spread right across the globe there. I mean, we're trying to do the right thing and live according to the health experts.
Right.
These guys are doing it independently, aren't
But
they?
I'm shocked that we're not on there. I thought we were a pretty happy nation.
Every time I talk about the blue zones, people are really indignant. Is Australia not one?
I know.
Is Australia not a blue zone? Well, we're not a blue zone. And there's some reasons for that. But if you look at the secrets of the blue zones and why they're living so long, it's not just longevity either. It's actually that they're healthier and happier for longer in their lives.
So diet plays a part, and we would have thought a Mediterranean diet would be on some of those, certainly through Italy as well. What about the sort of social aspect?
Well, just on diet, it's mainly plant-based.
Okay.
And in Okinawa, Japan, they practice hari hashibu, which is eating until you're 80% full. Now,
I do not practice hari hashibu. hari hashibubu. You know? So that's excellent. And that's mostly plant-based foods.
Yeah, and also on diet, so no smoking and then low to moderate alcohol intake, generally of red wine. In these areas. There's constant moderate exercise, so daily.
So daily walks versus your CrossFit type training.
It's like CrossFit.
Intensity. Intense workouts are not in these regions.
Well, if you look, it's not that they're not doing intense, it's things like dance classes, obviously they're going for runs, but if you look at, say, somewhere like Sardinia, to get to the town, there's a lot of steps going up and down. So I call it incidental exercise. What they have to do each day to just get by involves exercise compared to, say, getting in your car, driving to office.
Now, we're not in a blue zone, but we have a survey that was conducted a few years ago and just published in 2016. We've got the area with no or low exercise, the town guilty of that. The worst is South Australia's Narracourt. The best is Double Bay in New South Wales, where I do that CrossFitty kind of thing. I was going to bring that up, but it's here. It's here, black and white. Don't say CrossFit to me ever.
Okay.
Adult obesity, this is serious. The worst offenders are in Tamworth, in New South Wales. The best in Cottesloe in Perth, in the Perth CBD.
Lots of long walks around there.
Yeah. Highest blood pressures measured through Fortitude Valley in Queensland. The best, though, Brunswick Heads, New South Wales on the coast.
Also on blue zones, what's really interesting is the high level of social engagement. So I think the number one thing that sets these places apart is the sense of community. There's often a spiritual practice in these zones, but if you think about a tight-knit community, lots of family, multi-generational meals, people feel like they have a purpose long into their lives. So there's an incentive to stay alive and be healthy.
Fascinating
so
stuff.
Being of service and a community takes a village, literally.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. We'll be right back after this quick break here on the House of Wellness. And we're beaming out right across Australia on the 7 Network and the Prime Network. Inspiration, smiles, advice and good food. So join us on the show for everyone who wants to live life to the full.
Coming up, tips and tricks for making breastfeeding easier. Stay with us here on the House of Wellness.
Welcome back. Time for the A to Z of vitamins now. Gerald has joined us as well. I want to talk about the dreaded sugar cycle, GQ. We know high sugar levels in our body, not good. It can be easily affected by our diets, of course, too. We need to change our diets. What about something natural, maybe as a supplement to help us along that path?
A couple of recognised things you can do, Ed, and it's all about fluctuating sugar levels. So sugar, when we eat it, raises our blood sugar. Having it back to normal is the key to the whole thing. So items like chromium, white mulberry, there are some herbs around and a mineral, the mineral chromium, just stabilises those levels. So that's important. And that, Joe, helps sugar craving.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you, Gerald, because I do try to keep sugar out of my diet as much as possible, but of course I crave sugar. Are there supplements I can take so that I'm not reaching for the bad stuff all the time?
Joe, there are supplements and the combinations are important. The mineral involved here is chromium. That helps stabilise the fluctuating levels. White mulberry is a herb that we use to help digest sugar and it just keeps things on a fairly stable level. That's the key.
Why do we crave sugar? What's going on in our brains?
Well, we're hooked on it. We've got a predisposition to sweetness and it starts very early in the piece, Ed, but you're all over it though, aren't you?
Oh, sweet advice. Thank you, Gerald. The A to Z of vitamins brought to us by Go Healthy. For healthy energy and vitality, try New Zealand's #1 premium supplements, now available in Australia. Thanks for that.
Pleasure.
Let's get over to you now, Zoe.
Thank you, Ed. Now, becoming a mum is one of the most amazing experiences of your life, but it's also one of the most challenging, especially when something that seems so natural like breastfeeding just isn't happening for you and bub. It can be so frustrating for mum and baby, and what should be such a wonderful time can end up in lots of tears for mum, not just the baby. So, here to help us is baby care author and mummy expert, Pinky McKay. Welcome.
Thank you, Zoe.
This is a big one. Breastfeeding can be so difficult for so many women.
Well, it's a learning experience. You know, it's like driving a car or riding a bike.
And it's
you wouldn't just hop in the car and put your foot on the pedals and go. You need to learn.
You do, and it's so hard. You can't actually learn before the hormones are there and before the baby is there. It's not like you can practice on a teddy bear.
Well, you could.
Could you?
Well, you can practice holding. You can't really practice much, but you
can't
certainly
practice
can prepare for breastfeeding.
How can we
before
do
you
that?
have your baby? Well, I think reading, talking to someone, you know, maybe have a visit with a lactation consultant, join the Australian Breastfeeding Association, go along to one of their antenatal classes around breastfeeding, just so you understand the process.
Because there's something about preparing, right, for something you don't know that's going to feel a certain way, and having this beautiful image of you nursing your baby, and then milk just doesn't come in for some women. It just
Or it can be slow.
Or it can be slow.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can encourage?
One of the little things you can do while you're pregnant, and particularly if you've got some medical conditions that might make breastfeeding come in a little bit slower, perhaps if you've got diabetes, your baby's often you know, got problems with low blood sugars. So someone will offer the baby formula. So then, and it's medically necessary that that baby has something to eat. So then the mother's breasts don't get the signal to make the milk because the baby's not forming. So one of the things you can do is my little boob here, hand express a little bit of colostrum. I won't demonstrate that.
The hand expressing is...
Just hand expressing,
It can be a little bit painful too, so to prepare yourself for that.
It's like breaking in a new pair of shoes, perhaps. It shouldn't really hurt. Express that little bit of colostrum, pop it in tiny little 2 and 5 ml syringes and pop them in a Ziploc bag in your freezer, you know, from about 36 weeks. Just check with your health carers.
Okay.
But from about then, pop them in the freezer, and then if someone's saying to you, you know, your baby's blood sugars are low or your milk's a bit slow coming in, you can say, look, I've got this.
That's fantastic.
You don't need to start with formula, which could affect the baby's gut biome and, you know, and slow up your milk coming in even more.
And, you know, I think people out there do need to be aware that that might not happen either. It didn't for me. I couldn't get any milk out until the baby was born.
That's right. Not having colostrum beforehand isn't an indicator that your breastfeeding's not going to work.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about post-birth, your feeding. It's important to set up a designated area.
Well, even if it's not an area, you know, it's good to have a feeding station I've got this
I
little
still
ball
have
to show you how
mine.
tiny they are. A feeding station where you can sit, but also to prepare a basket so that you might sit in the lounge room or you might sit in the bedroom. You just take, or you might sit outside on a nice sunny day.
Yes.
Take that basket with you. You know, you have a snack in there, something nice to eat.
I still eat those.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Not that I need them for the milk, but I still like to eat them.
Well, you need to nourish yourself
Me
as you
too.
feed that baby. Keep your fluids up. So have your water in there. You might put a remote control, your breast pads, a baby nappy even. Have a basket of stuff that you can take around with you.
And always go to the toilet first because there's
You'll be
nothing
stuck
worse.
on the couch going,
Yeah, exactly.
hurry up, kid.
Thank you so much, Pinky. It is always such a delight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Zoe.
We're going to be here on the House of Wellness right after the break.
Welcome back. Behavioural expert Anthony Laye has joined us from earlier on in the show. Joe and I were in cahoots. You picked on us, but not Zoe, so come on.
Yeah, so Zoe, we're going to do one final test.
Oh,
what I'm going
God.
to get you to do that, we're going to go for a bit of personal information.
Great.
Okay? So what I want you to do
Yes.
is to think of the name of the first person that you ever kissed. Okay, just,
There's so many.
just the first name.
It's Benji, isn't it? No.
Okay.
Have you got a name in mind? So just their first name, write it down there. Once you've done that, fold this up and then put your initials on there. Now, obviously, you might see this over there, so if you do see it, don't say
Don't
anything.
look. And then my initials on the back.
Yeah, is that folded, is it? Mm-hmm. And I'll turn it around again, and then your initials on there, fold that up. Now, the reason why I get you to put your initials on is, you know, I can't switch it. Also, I can't see through that, can I? I can't.
No.
God, okay.
Gee, that's a big list.
Hold tight there for me. Now, don't say anything, but just imagine now. Just imagine now this person's name, like the Hollywood sign, so nice big bold letters in your mind. And now in your mind, just count how many letters are in it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you went very, very quick, so it's a very short name. Yeah, giving a little bit away here. 3 letters.
What do you want me to do?
Okay, just
Keep looking at it?
don't say anything. Focus on one of the letters in about the middle for me. That's an A, yes.
I know him.
The first letter, don't say anything. The first letter, just focus on the first letter for me. Is this a bit of a weird name?
Do you want me to say yes or no?
Is it a bit of an... I don't know if it's going to be bang on. Is it something like Jan?
Similar.
Jan, Tan? I'm not going to get the first letter. What is the first letter?
V.
Van?
Yeah.
Okay, first guess was Van. Okay.
No way. Yeah, that's so weird. How did you weren't going to get it. The first letter.
I couldn't quite pick up on the first letter, but...
But how, you only have a repertoire of a few letters? No, I'm asking. Is there only a few, like, you know, when you're looking at the
I wasn't
eyes,
expecting someone to be called Van. No.
Oh, I threw you with the name.
Good on you.
Good work. It's going to be awkward next week when Van is a special guest. Thanks, Anthony, Zoe, and all the team. We've got to go. Thanks to our friends at Chemist Warehouse as well. Hope you have a healthy and well week. Oh, it's all in the mind. See you next time.
I got to talk about this.